What's up guys, I'm Vince and this is VinceVentures. This is the story of how my brother and I decided to drive our late grandfather's 1996 Renault Megane to the North Cape, Europe's most northern point accessible by car. If you are new to this channel, I'm sharing my adventures, travel experiences and beautiful trips on this platform to provide recommendations and ideas in case you're planning a similar trip, or maybe you just want to watch some different landscapes and escape from reality. This is just a hobby, but over the last years a lot of people ask me about my trips, so I thought I'd just share them here. If you already watched the last videos, shout out to my few loyal subscribers. Thank you so much for sticking around and supporting me. In the last video you have seen my brother and I driving up and down a lot of hairpin turns to the Geiranger Skywalk, down into the fjord and up again to the extraordinary Trollstigen Pass. We watched a beautiful sunset and before the sun got down, we set up our tent at a rest stop right across the city of Molde. This day was truly spectacular and we saw so many beautiful landscapes, but we didn't know that it was supposed to get even better. On the next morning I woke up early again at around 6 AM, but felt really rested, so I got up, took the drone and recorded the sunrise over the sea. After we had breakfast, we packed up our tent, turned on the trusty old car and drove to the ferry to Molde. I remember it being a relatively short ferry ride, around 30 minutes. On some ferries you have to pay on the ship and on others the ferry ride will be included within the toll from the road. You can register your license plate on epass24.com to easily pay your road toll. When we arrived in Molde, we originally had planned on driving directly towards the famous Atlantic Road, but before we had to take our turn, we saw a sign towards the Molde Panorama. Thankfully we've seen this sign and followed it. The road became worse, unpaved, steep and nearly too much for our car, but it made it up the hill and the view from there was just unbelievable. We took some photos and just enjoyed the view for a few minutes before driving down the road again. Some people even had camped on that hill, but our view in the morning waking up and seeing the water wasn't too bad either. After being back on the main road, it was a smooth 45 minutes ride to the beginning of the famous Atlantic Road. Because we didn't have a restroom at the last camping spot, we stopped after 15 minutes at a small rest stop in Malmefjorden to get ready for the day. We continued and after a few minutes we arrived at the Atlantic Road. It is known as the world's most beautiful drive, and although it not being on our direct route, we just had to go there. It connects Avarøy with the mainland via a series of small islands spanned by a total of 8 bridges over 8 kilometers. The road was opened in the late 1980s and is toll-free. We stopped at multiple stops and recorded some drone footage. There's an elevated walking path as well that is actually quite nice to get another perspective on the road and the ocean. We were super lucky again concerning the weather. It was warm enough to wear a t-shirt only, so no need for a jacket. I could have easily spent some more days here exploring the area, but we had a tight schedule and wanted to reach the North Cape. We continued our drive to Trondheim via Kristiansund, taking the tunnel back in mainland direction. The drive was about 4 hours and included a short 20-minute ferry ride from Kanestraum to Halsa. At around 6 p.m. we arrived in Trondheim. It was still warm and sunny, and there was some sort of music festival in town. With around 200,000 people living in Trondheim, it is one of the biggest Norwegian cities and was one of the last bigger cities for us for the next week, as the population would only decrease in the north. The Nidaros Cathedral in the city center is truly impressive, and it's Northern Europe's most important pilgrimage site. The cathedral is built over the tomb of Olaf the Holy, the Viking king, who has Christianized Norway and became the entire country's eternal king. We wandered around, walked along the river Nidelva and listened to the music festival on the other side. Saw the world's first bicycle lift, which looked really sketchy and most people trying were unsuccessful. And we walked to the Old Town Bridge, from where you have a postcard-like view on the historic wharves, warehouses and boathouses at the mouth of the Nidelva River. On the way back to our car, we also saw the Stiftsgarden, which is the royal residence in Trondheim and considered to be one of the largest wooden buildings in Northern Europe. The whole town is filled with beautiful small stores, and the atmosphere on this summer evening was super relaxing and nice. I can only recommend to visit this city. We filled our tank back up after we used more fuel than usual on the mountain passes the day before, and luckily the fuel was only 3 Norwegian crowns, so 26 cents per liter more expensive than at our first fuel stop. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough money for accommodation in the city, so we continued our drive to a rest stop that we found on the map. To our rest stop it was again 1.5 hours to drive, but after half an hour we stopped with the perfect timing, with the sun starting to go down at 9:15 at Hell's station. Yes, you heard it right. There's a town named Hell and they have a train station, so if you ever want to go to Hell or to Hell station, you have to come here. The rest stop for the night had a nice and very clean restroom, but it was closer to the road and I somehow didn't feel as comfortable as the nights before. Driving the beautiful and extraordinary Atlantic Road, visiting Trondheim on a warm summer day and going to Hell Station made this day unforgettable and even better than the day before. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always I put the link to the places we visited down in the description box below. Join us in the next video, where for a stressful half an hour in the morning we thought we'd damage our car and no mechanic was open on that day, but see us continuing nevertheless on our way to the north, entering North Norway and finding a beautiful camping spot at a glassy lake with lots of mosquitoes. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked this video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe, and see you next week.